WFM 91.7.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for staying with us on Women Radio WFM 91.7. This is Nigeria's first radio station for women and their families. All right, this is about 5 minutes after 12. My name is Rose Yusuf Kaiser. You are welcome to The Big Question. The Big Question is a program where we discuss and profess solutions to issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens. The Big Question comes to you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12:05 p.m. Now, you can do up to join the conversation by contributing or reacting to the big question. You can call us upon 07000 917 917. Send a text or a WhatsApp message to 070 317 56537. You can also send in your contributions to our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at WFM917, or log on to our website www.wfm917.com. Download our mobile app WFM917. All right, so today on The Big Question, we are looking at providing jobs and social protection for the eradication of poverty. All right, that is our topic today on The Big Question. Now, to do this with me today is Suleiman Arigba. He is the Executive Secretary, Human and Environmental Development Agenda Header, Resource Center. All right, he's with me this afternoon virtually, and we are looking at providing jobs and social protection for the eradication of poverty. Now, women and girls often face disproportionate and multidimensional burden of extreme poverty and inequality. This creates and other challenges linked to their limited participation and in decision-making process to ensure the advancement of fundamental human rights and social justice over the pursuit of corporate profit. Now, the International Day for Eradication of Poverty, which was yesterday, 17th of October, is an avenue to acknowledge people living in extreme poverty, many of whom work in an informal economy, unregistered, unrecognized, and unprotected under labor legislation, and they face difficult and dangerous conditions. Now, despite long working hours, they are unable to earn enough to support themselves and their families. So on this program today, we'll be discussing providing jobs and social protection for the eradication of poverty. All right, so once again, this is Women Radio, and this is about 8 minutes after 12. All right, thank you so much for joining us once again. So, Suleiman, thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I hope that your week has been going on well.
Oh, fine, thank you.
Okay. All right. So today with you, we're looking at providing jobs and social protection for the eradication of poverty. All right, in Nigeria. Now, let's start with how can we ensure that jobs created for poverty eradication provide decent work that upholds human dignity, because of poverty, you want to remove poverty, you find a lot of people doing jobs that that doesn't even place value on them, that at the end of the day they don't even see the reward for the hours they have put in, or they get to just met out some sort of working conditions on them that are not good at all. That when you look at it, you'll be like, what is this? Where is this coming from? Is it because there are no jobs, or is it because people need this money to get themselves out of poverty? So how do we ensure that jobs created for poverty eradication, are actually decent and it upholds human dignity?
Thank you very much. Let me start first by saying that except for where the job is criminal in nature, where it violates the law, a job is a job. It is the value that the recipients of that service, of that job, gives to the job, or the value that society places on such jobs, that determines whether we now say, this job has no dignity and whatever. Because every job that has to be done by someone. So you take, for instance, Nigerians will find some jobs too menial here, and they will go abroad and gladly do same jobs. Why? Because the values that they get for their efforts, they think is worth their while. same persons will never do that kind of job back here because of the value that society. So first things that need to change is our national ethos and values as a people. The people who are supposed to pay the most are the ones we pay the least. We pay our politicians a sinful amount of money. Then we pay our teachers paltry sums. We pay our policemen, our teachers who guide our future, our policemen who guide our life, our farmers who ensure that we can live to the next day. They are the least paid amongst us, whereas politicians and some other people whose value sometimes is even questionable, and who so I just wanted to place that on the table. Now, coming back directly to the question that you have asked, that the jobs that in the quest, especially
Hello, Suleiman, are you there?
kind of jobs that we for instance, that was the Empower program, for instance, which says that young graduates can go and give their services in areas like teaching, like agricultural extension, like health extension, and what have you. Now, these jobs are good. The problem with them is the amount of value that the ones giving the services get out of it. And if you look at it, these are mere stopgaps from poverty. These are mere stopgaps from unemployment. So young people are coming out of the university. You don't want them to rush into unemployment, so you created the NYSC, which has other values. But at least it's a stopgap from unemployment. Okay, they are finished NYSC, the jobs are not there. You don't want them to be loafing around, and there are jobs to be done. You create something like Empower. However, these are not meant to be the in thing. They are just meant to be like palliatives, just stopgap. People are supposed to get jobs that can give. So if a graduate is working through the Empower program and is getting 30,000 monthly, 30,000 naira is definitely going to put that person below the poverty level. It's going to put that person below the poverty line. So, but at least if the person is doing it, say, for 6 months, 1 year, they know that they are sacrificing, they are getting experience, and they are preparing themselves for the next thing that should happen. But unfortunately, it never happens like that in our society. After that, they have to look for the next government program, because we do not have the conducive environment for people who want to help themselves out of situations of poverty by being value creators themselves or value aggregators. Our education system did not prepare us to be those who will be creators of jobs, solvers, of wealth, of opportunities. Rather, it's preparing us to seek monthly employment, get a salary, and find a way to cheat the system, because you find somebody who is going into public service, into the civil service, after school, and you ask, oh, but why the civil service? Say, oh, that is where we have time to be doing other things. You can see the mindset from the beginning. The mindset is not to go and give your best and create value and turn around the place. The mindset is because you believe you can cheat the system and do it. So a lot of things need to change if we are to address the issue you have raised properly as a people.
Okay. Thank you so much, Suleiman, for raising all of these issues this morning. Now, this is Women Radio WFM 91.7, and this is about 14 minutes after 12. Now, today on The Big Question, we are looking at providing jobs and social protection for the eradication of poverty. Now, there's something you mentioned, Suleiman, to help themselves out of poverty, to create value yourself, to be problem solvers. When you get out of school, you should be able to do something for yourself, with all you have learned, bring it all together and see that you can actually create an opening for even others to want to come into. Now, let's look at skills. Let's look at other qualities, that one could actually get even in the process of education. Now, what strategies can be employed to improve access to quality education, which you mentioned, and skills development also for individuals, to enable them secure better employment, which can, at the end of the day, lead one out of poverty?
Yes, thank you very much. There is an important conversation that Africans need to have amongst ourselves. We need to have this conversation devoid of IMF, devoid of World Bank, and also devoid of the baggage of our colonial past. We need to look at our education system and ask ourselves, what exactly do we want it to achieve? So I start from the historical perspective, when we've always had our own kind of education and social acculturation before the colonialists came. And when the colonialists came, they brought their own, what we now all call Western education. And they limited it to us having a limited education that will make us functional in their own designed economy and space. When they left, we aspired to do better. We believed that we should go to university. So everybody wanted to go to university. Nobody wanted to stay on the farm. Nobody wanted to be a technician. Even officially, we discriminated against people who have gone to get quality hands-on knowledge from the polytechnic. We discriminated against them compared to those who have gone to the university, even though they have read the same course, even when in most cases, the person coming from the polytechnic has more competence on the job than the one who is coming from the university. Up to now, that official policy of discrimination still subsists in Nigeria. So we need to have that holistic conversation. Now, what do we want our education system? We don't want to keep on blaming the colonialists that, they gave us the kind of education that will do this, that will do that. Even in the Western countries today, university education is not the end of everything. It's not the one thing that, people can aspire to be anything even without a university degree. A situation where you are even hearing that some of the richest men who have contributed most value to humanity through their invention, through their businesses, where even university drops out. But here in Nigeria, everybody must go to university because we are so certificate focused. Now, in the course of that, at some point, the government introduced the idea of 6334 system, which means you go to 6 years of primary school, then your first 3 years of secondary school, you are going to get both the subject knowledge and vocational teaching. But at some point, despite the billions of money that Nigeria invested in that money, it never really took off. Because the idea is that when kids are coming out of JS3, aside from being prepared to go to the next level of which is the senior class, they are supposed to have skills that can make them survive on their own if they were to stop schooling at that time. And when we look at this model, we will see that China and countries who have become self-sufficient did not place all their values and premium on university certificate, but rather on what can you do. And they found a certification process that will make sure that you do that thing to a standard. That same China that brings all sort of things here because Nigerians go there to manipulate their cottage industries is the same China that produces for Japan, that produces for Western Europe, that produces for America to the standards that they want. And you cannot produce that kind of thing unless you have helped your people to standardize themselves in terms of their skill, in terms of their certification, in terms of machineries. So when they calibrate a machine in China, it will read the same thing that it will read in America, unless when it gets to Nigeria, then everything will change. So what kind of functional education do we really need? Is it for people to go and study? I studied chemistry in university. And I'm not going to kid myself and say I'm going into a lab, because I know that most of the things that I was supposed to have come across in secondary school, I did not even come across them in university, only through theory. It's only in Nigeria when you see a scientist that excels, they are putting extra, and even more extra. And then some of them are able to now go abroad and see those things that we used to dream of, read about as if they are.
Suleiman, are you there?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying that we need to have a conversation around what kind of education system will give us the kind of development we want. That will give us people who have the manpower to do. Okay, so why do you have a situation where, for instance, you want to do tiling or you want to do some jobs in the construction sector, and you'll be told you need artisans from Togo and Benin Republic? Because in Nigeria, even the apprenticeship system is not standardized. If a young boy is following somebody to the site construction, helping them to, as a laborer, physical laborer, packing sand and cement, mixing it, after a while, he also becomes a bricklayer, he also becomes somebody who wants to be a mason. And that's not how it is. No matter how much you have gone to learn in that process, you need to put that test through a standardized process that will certify you, that will let you know all the basics. So that is why I am insisting that our education system is not functional, and it cannot help us to produce the kind of helping, self-sufficient citizens that will be creators of values, rather than those who seek jobs, those who seek aids from government.
All right. Thank you so much, Suleiman. This is Women Radio WFM 91.7, Nigeria's first radio station for women and their families. This is 22 minutes after 12. To be a part of the big question, you can dial 07000 917 917. Send us a text or a WhatsApp message to 070 317 56537. All right. My name is Rose Yusuf Kaiser, and today on the big question, we're looking at providing jobs and social protection for the eradication of poverty. And I'm with Suleiman Arigbabu. He is the Executive Secretary, Human Environmental Development Agenda, that's HEDA Resource Center. All right, Suleiman, now we've talked about, how to actually get this quality education to start with, and then look at skill development and all of that. Now let's look at our social protection system. In what ways can this be strengthened? All right, to support vulnerable population and mitigate the risk of falling into poverty or the risk of being in poverty, because right now, when you look at what's happening in Nigeria, a lot of people, when you look at the population, they live below $1. And how much is $1 right now? So, I mean, in what ways can this system, the social protection system, be strengthened to support these people, all right, amongst us, to mitigate this risk of, falling into poverty or even being in poverty? Because that's what we're trying to eradicate.
Thank you. So for Nigeria, and I think unfortunately for many African countries, social protection is not a system. It's not a national value thing. It is not a national commitment thing. It's a political agenda. Social protection is a political program. So that is why Mr. Buhari, former president, will have a social protection program, and Mr. Tinubu can come and discontinue and choose the one he wants to continue. If Mr. Tinubu wasn't coming from Mr. Buhari's political party, probably everything that the previous government initiated would have been truncated. So that's why I say it's not a national policy. That's why you will see even at the state levels. So a governor comes and he decides he will be giving 5,000 to the elderly, and the next governor comes and cancels it without replacing it with anything. So there are political programs where the whims and caprices. We are not using social protection as one because we want to care for everybody. We want to make sure that nobody dies out of hunger. Nobody dies because they do not have money to buy a malaria pill. Nobody dies because of those little things. We do not care enough for life. That is one. Two, we are not ready to foot the bill. the money that we should use for social protection are filtered away either through elections. Even we citizens, we prefer to collect our 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 during electioneering cycle than to ask politicians to invest our money in social protection. That is why you will see that most people who stole money probably under a particular administration, whether at state or national level, if the successor is they have an understanding or they have good relationship, the people will get away with it. We only go after people when there is a political axe to grind. So the point I'm making really is that our social protection needs to now become part of our national values, need to become a national policy, one that will be properly legislated, one that will continue irrespective of who comes into power, one that you can only add to it. There will be a minimum that you cannot remove from, and one that will not be done on the basis of political patronage, on the basis of politicians wanting to get political capital out of it, but rather one that is managed by an institution that is free of politics, an institution that will operate whether there is a president in place or not, an institution that will not be undermined by an hostile National Assembly that will just decide to either approve their budget or not approve, cancel, or what have you. Until we're able to do that, we are not doing social protection. What we are doing are political agenda of intervention. And often, the society do not get the full value, the full benefit, because these programs are usually subjected to political partisanship, they are subjected to corruption, they are pretty opaque. So we have a national register of poor persons, for instance.
Yeah.
But during the last administration, when they created the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, when they started to distribute money, especially post-COVID, during and post-COVID, they didn't use the register. Politicians came with their own registers. At the state level, the same thing will happen. If APC in power, APC will have a register. If PDP comes to power, it will have a register. Even if Labour comes to power, it will have its own register. We cannot operate like that. We are deceiving ourselves. So until we have a system in place that is blind, like the Lady of Justice, a system that only sees who is supposed to service, not who is in government, a system that will not determine today that, okay, I'm going to take most things to Katsina because a Katsina man is in government, or I'm going to take most things to Lagos because a Lagos man is the president. A system that does not see that. And we must have such a system operating at both our national and state levels. We want this. So take, for instance, we have a school feeding program. Why should a school feeding program not be for a country like Nigeria that has over 13 million children out of school? For a country like Nigeria that is suffering from issues of terrorism and banditry, because the food soldiers of this heinous act are from children that are out of school. So when you have such a situation, you must have a program that keeps children in school, that encourages them to go to school, that shows them that there is another opportunity in life, there could be another meaning to life, that they could be stakeholders in the societies that they find themselves. But unfortunately, such interventions are done at the whims and caprices. The politicians come, they change this contractor. Even when contractors are not changed, between the school operators and the providers of the food services, a lot of shenanigans go on, and it is the poor children who do not get the value that they are supposed to get. And if we do not do such a thing, we will have to spend more on their health. Of course. We have to spend more on security. We have to spend more on a lot of things. So we do not have a national social intervention, social protection program that is functional.
And that in itself is a problem. All right, thank you so much, Suleiman, for that. Now, just as we tend to wrap this up, how can we how can organizations, how can governments, collaborate, come together to develop policies that promote inclusive growth and that can generate sustainable employment opportunities for marginalized communities? Because it's not just the government alone. Organizations can come through, CSOs can come through also, because sometimes when CSOs come together and take this issue up as a voice, the government will have no option but to bring, to turn its attention to these issues. So, how can we all come together to collaborate so that policies will be developed that will promote inclusive growth and also generate sustainable employment opportunities for marginalized communities?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. This is very important. I mean, beyond the lamentation, we need the problem solved.
Yes.
And this is why I insist that when there are certain conversations we need to have as a people, as a country, and this is part of the issues that we should be discussing. You see, the fact is that the efforts of non-state actors like NGOs, civil society operators, like religious organizations and what have you, and other philanthropists are meant to do basically three things. The first is to let government know that there is a problem and it needs to be solved. The second is to show proof of concepts. If an NGO, for instance, makes an intervention that helps a community through an idea they have, then that's a proof of concept. Government then has the responsibility to come and upscale and then take it to other places. Thirdly, is basically to support whatever government does. Okay, so government is making this intervention. Oh, we can use the opportunity to introduce this. So, for instance, government is doing a school feeding program, and Dangote Foundation comes and say, "Oh, I can use the opportunity to introduce vitamin A salt." These are interventions that philanthropists are not state actors, but they cannot take the role of government. We all have aggregated our resources into government. They have the bigger response because whatever we do will continue to be a drop in the ocean. And as you are solving a problem, a bigger one is emerging all around you. So it is important that we understand that the role of non-state actor is to show government that it is doable, and if you do it, we'll help you. We'll help you to monitor what you are doing. We'll help you to get value for money. But yes, we need to have a renewed orientation in our country. We need to have a renewed determination that if we want Nigeria to have a different narrative in the next 20 years, then we're already late in preparing us, because all those children, over 30 million of them, for instance, who are out of school today, are problems for us in the next 5, 10, 20 years beyond. That is one. Two, you cannot have a productive economy where most young people who can, who have the energy, who have the zeal, are out of work or they are underemployed. So we need to create, one, I've talked about, our educational system.
Yes.
And also now we need to talk about how do we get value for everything that we do. So if you are creating opportunities in the agri sector, look at the one the last government did in the agri sector, the rice intervention they did. Now we have spent billions and billions, let me even say billions of dollars. But where is the value now? Is Nigeria rice sufficient? Do we have how much employment that we created was retained? So, for instance, something as simple as helping the farmer with access to climate information, with access to irrigation system, with access to knowledge of good agronomic practices, with access to improved seedling. These are investments that we are going to reap in manifold. These things are merged in corruption. We do most of these things on paper. Farmers still complain, farmers still lose to flooding that is predicted already months ahead. Things that we know are going to happen, but we are unable to help our citizens to avoid the disasters, the losses that comes with it. It shows that we are not serious about lifting ourselves out of
Out
poverty.
of poverty.
So this is where we need to start from.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Suleiman. Thank you so much for being a part of our program. Now, let's quickly hear your last words in terms of, eradicating poverty, especially in this part of the world. What are your last words on this? What do you want to see happen in terms of this?
The first thing I would like to say, and I keep going back to our national values as a people, as a nation, you cannot walk on one leg. We are a country that do not value the contribution of women, the contribution of the girl child. So if we continue in that direction, we do not train the girl child as we train the boy child becomes useless. Women are 50% or more of our population. It is like tying one of your legs and you want to do a marathon. This is probably part of the reasons why we are not moving forward. And this thinking has to start changing even from childhood. We need to train both the boy and the girl child to see themselves as helpers, as companions, as those who can achieve whatever it is they set their mind to. Create the environment, create the opportunity for them to do that. Strengthen our education system. We're going to have a situation where in some part of the country, boys are out of school. In another part of the country, girls are out of school, where women will not have the opportunity that they deserve. Women farmers toil so much, and somebody will just come and say, this land will move away because they do not have secure tenureship to land. So many things happen. We need to run with two legs.
All right. Thank you so much, Suleiman. Thank you so much for coming through on the program this afternoon. I really do appreciate all, your inputs and your words on the topic of discourse. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Do have a great week ahead. Enjoy the rest of the week.
You too.
All right. So there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to The Big Question. A very big thank you to our guest for today, Suleiman Arigbapu. He's Executive Secretary, Human and Environmental Development Agenda, that HEDA Resource Center. And to you for being part of The Big Question. All right. So join us again on Friday at 12:05 p.m. We'll bring you the program The Big Question. My name is Rose Yusuf Kaisar. A very big thank you to the
WFM 91.7.